Today we're going to delve into the fascinating world of thought processes that can transform your life. We're about to explore the incredible power of your mind and how it shapes your reality. You know, people often ask me, how do I become the person of my dreams? How do I manifest the life I truly desire? Well, my friends, it all begins with a simple piece of paper. Grab it and let's embark on a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Here's the secret. Write down everything you want in your life. But here's the twist. Don't just write it down, become it. Yes, you heard me right. Becoming the person you envision is the key to unlocking the doors of manifestation. It's about aligning your thoughts, feelings, and actions with the reality you desire. Now let's talk about relationships. I've traveled the world, and everywhere I go, people want to know the secret to creating meaningful connections. Well, here's my take on it. Love is often misunderstood. Some see it as a need, others as a manifestation of sexuality, control, dominance, or success. But true love, the kind that forms the foundation of genuine relationships, goes beyond these definitions. I've got a theory: never work in a relationship. If you find yourself working too hard, something's off. When both individuals bring their best selves to the table, celebrating life together, that's where constructive interference happens. Growth, energy, and love thrive in this environment. Now, I want you to consider this. Would you go out with yourself? It's a fundamental question. If you're not at your best, take a step back, reflect, get back into your heart, and present the best version of yourself. This isn't about working on a relationship, it's about being your best self in a relationship. Let's dive into the science of manifestation. Thoughts are like the electrical charge in the quantum field, and feelings are the magnetic charge. Together, they create an electromagnetic signature that influences every atom in your life. Your thoughts send a signal, and your feelings create a magnetic field that draws events back to you. If you want love in your life, be it familial, romantic, or friendly, you need to be in love with life itself. If your thoughts and feelings are clouded by anger, hostility, judgment, or fear, there's no magnetic field to draw love toward you. Remember, anything that controls your thoughts and feelings makes you a victim. Now let's talk about habits. They're like redundant sets of automatic thoughts and behaviors acquired through repetition. Your body knows how to do them better than your mind. When you wake up and immediately start thinking about problems, you're living in the past. Your emotions become tied to those past experiences, creating a state of being rooted in the familiar past. By the time you're 35, 95% of who you are is a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions. This becomes a subconscious program, and most people wait for crisis or trauma to make up their minds to change. But why wait? Meditation is the key. It helps you move beyond the analytical mind, the barrier between the conscious and subconscious. Through meditation, you can change your brainwaves, slow them down, and access the operating system where real change happens. Let's dive into something truly powerful: the ability to choose joy over suffering and how you can bring positive change into your life. The amazing part? You don't need a crisis or trauma to ignite this transformation. Learning and changing can happen in a state of joy and inspiration. It's time to tap into the incredible power within you for a journey toward positive transformation. Many people believe that change only happens when life throws a curveball, like a crisis or trauma. But here's the thing: waiting for such moments isn't necessary. You can learn, grow, and transform even when life is filled with joy and inspiration. It's about recognizing that every moment, whether joyful or challenging, is an opportunity for growth and positive change. Picture this: you're feeling inspired, joyful, and ready to take on the world. In these moments, your mind is open to new possibilities and your energy is vibrant. Why not use this positive state to fuel transformation? By embracing change in moments of joy, you create a foundation that's not only resilient but also filled with limitless potential. People all around are waking up to the idea that they hold immense power within themselves. This awakening is a game changer. It's a realization that you can harness the energy of joy and inspiration to fuel positive transformation. The journey begins with acknowledging the power you possess and consciously choosing joy as a driving force for change. Let's shift our focus to understanding trauma, those moments that shake us to our core. Trauma isn't just about the event, it's about how we process and carry it within ourselves. When you experience something traumatic, your brain goes into overdrive. It places all its attention on the cause, creating a vivid snapshot, a memory that lingers. These memories aren't just ordinary, they are deeply rooted in highly emotional experiences. The emotional reaction to trauma is like a powerful wave that leaves a lasting impact. The more intense the emotion, the higher the emotional quotient. It's like a spotlight on the cause, reinforcing the memory and its emotional weight. Imagine a ripple effect. The emotional wave from a traumatic experience extends far beyond the initial event. This ripple effect makes it challenging to move past the trauma. The memory becomes like a loop, repeatedly playing in your mind, creating an emotional stronghold. Breaking free from this cycle is crucial for healing. It requires a shift in focus and a conscious effort to redirect attention away from the traumatic event. Understanding that the emotional waves are just that, waves that can be navigated and eventually smoothed out, is a fundamental step toward overcoming the enduring impact of trauma. Let's talk about something crucial: overcoming trauma. Traumatic events can leave a lasting impact on our lives, making it challenging to move forward. But there's a powerful solution, and it begins with shifting our focus. When we've experienced trauma, it's natural to find ourselves revisiting those painful memories. However, dwelling on the past only perpetuates the emotional hold it has on us. The key to healing is redirecting our attention from the traumatic event to positive, empowering thoughts. It's essential to understand that shifting focus doesn't mean denying the past. Instead, it's about breaking free from the emotional stronghold that these memories have on our present and future. We acknowledge the past, but we refuse to let it define our path forward. Now let's explore a transformative tool: meditation. This simple practice becomes a beacon of hope for those looking to break free from the grip of traumatic memories. How does it work? By slowing down our brainwaves, meditation allows us to detach ourselves from the emotional weight of past experiences. Think of it as a mental reset button. Meditation creates a space where we can distance ourselves from the constant replay of traumatic events in our minds. This newfound distance empowers us to create new, positive thought patterns. It's like rewriting the script of our lives, moving from a narrative of pain to one of healing and resilience. Meditation isn't about erasing memories, it's about changing our relationship with them. As we navigate the serene waters of meditation, we discover the strength to reshape our perception of the past. This process is gradual, but with patience and commitment, it becomes a powerful catalyst for personal transformation. Here's a fundamental truth: the past doesn't hold the power to define our future. Living in the past, constantly replaying old stories, only sets the stage for a predictable future. So, how do we break free from the shackles of past conditioning and take charge of our destiny? The answer lies in embracing the present. When we live in the present, we shift our focus from what was to what is. It's about recognizing that the past is a chapter in our book, not the entire story. Every moment in the present is an opportunity to make choices that shape our future. By breaking free from the limiting beliefs rooted in past experiences, we open the door to new possibilities. Regaining control of our destiny starts with a conscious decision to live in the now. It's a commitment to mindfulness, allowing ourselves to fully experience and appreciate each moment. As we let go of the burdens of the past, we create space for growth, resilience, and joy in the present. You have the power to become unstoppable and change your current reality. By understanding the thought processes of highly vibrational people, you can manifest anything you desire. It's time to align your thoughts, feelings, and actions with the life you envision. So people wake up in the morning and they start thinking about their problems. And those problems are memories in the brain that are connected to certain people and certain things at certain times and places. So they wake up in the morning and they start thinking in the past. Now, the moment they start having those thoughts, every one of those experiences has an emotion associated with it. So when they start thinking about their problems or the problems of the world or the problems of their body or whatever it is, problems at work, they all of a sudden start to feel the correlated emotion. So now their body's in the past. So now people then get caught up in an emotion. They reaffirm their identity. They could wake up in the morning and feel nothing at all. And then all of a sudden they say, well, wait a second, I've got to get back to myself. So they start thinking about their problems, and here come the emotions, and they say, oh, now I feel like me again. So those emotions then begin to influence our thoughts. Like if you feel like a failure, you're going to think you're a failure. And when you think you're a failure, you're going to feel like a failure. And when you feel like a failure, you're going to think more thoughts equal to being a failure. And the cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking causes you to say, I am a failure. And the repetition of that process of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking conditions the body to become the mind of that emotion. Now the emotion is stored in the body. Now the body's literally in the past. And the body, as the unconscious mind, doesn't know the difference between the actual experience that's creating the emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. Your body's believing it's in the same experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So then getting people out of the past is the work. So then they wake up in the morning after they reaffirm who they are, and they can't think greater than how they feel. They're in the familiar past. So if you're in the familiar past, you're going to do the things that reaffirm the emotions of your predictable future. So you wake up in the morning, you check your WhatsApp, you check your text, you check your Twitter, you tweet, you check your Facebook, you check your email, you check the news. Now you are really connected to everything that's known in your life, and then you run through a series of routine behaviors. You move around your house the same way you always do. You do all the same things. You go to the same grocery store, you buy the same food, you shop the same way, you do all these, you watch the same TV shows, and people do this for 10, 20, 30 years. Now their body's on autopilot, and their body's dragging them into a predictable future based on what they did in the past. You could actually take their yesterday and lift it up and set it on their tomorrow, which means then they've lost their free will to a program. So now the familiar past and the predictable future is called the known. There's only one place that you have to train a person to be so that they're not in the known, they're in the unknown. And that's called the present moment. So people get very happy being unhappy because they would rather cling to their unhappiness than take a chance in possibility. So stepping into that river and beginning to make a new choice and understanding that uncertainty, that unpredictability is the unknown. Now you're in that river of change, and it is the neurological, the biological, the chemical, hormonal, genetic death of the old self. People say to me, well, if there's uncertainty, I can't predict my future. And I always say the same thing. The best way to predict your future is to create it, not in the known, right there. That uncertainty, you can learn now how to regulate your state instead of living in fear, because the idea that things are going to get worse, the idea that you can't predict, the idea of being uncertain or can't control something actually sets off the stress response. So now you're in the unknown, and this survival gene is switched on. Of course, people are going out of the infinite possibilities that exist in the quantum field. They're going to select the worst scenario in their mind, right? So then what if you're in the unknown and you understand that, and now you can work back into that present moment, and you say, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain, put my attention behind? What behaviors today, one day, what behaviors do I want to demonstrate? And the act of closing your eyes and mentally rehearsing who you're going to be when you open your eyes begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like you've already done it. Now, the brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future. So by rehearsing mentally and doing it over and over again, the hardware becomes a software program, and who knows, you just might start acting like a happy person. Well, there's no magic there. You install the circuitry. You may start thinking in more unlimited ways. You put those circuits in place. Now here's the tough part. Can you teach your body emotionally what that future is going to feel like before it's made manifest? That means you can't wait for your healing to feel gratitude and wholeness. You can't wait for your wealth to feel worthy and abundant. You can't wait for your new lover to feel love. That's the old model of reality of cause and effect, waiting for something outside of us to take away our emptiness and pain that we feel inside of us. That's Newtonian cause and effect. The quantum model of reality is about causing an effect. That means the moment you start feeling worthy and abundant, you're generating wealth. The moment you're in love with yourself and you're in love with life, you create an equal. The moment you start feeling gratitude and wholeness, your healing actually starts to begin. They're actually waiting for their health to improve to feel gratitude. They're waiting for their new relationship to feel joy and gratitude and thankfulness. They're waiting for the new career to happen. Once it happens, then they celebrate and feel gratitude. If you believe that your thoughts and feelings produce an effect in your life, and you're living in the lack every single day waiting for it to happen, you're separate from the experience. If you think about the emotional signature of gratitude, when you are receiving something that you like, that's pleasurable. You've just gotten or received something that is pleasurable. Something just happened to you, or something's happening to you that you like, you say thank you. You feel gratitude. The emotional signature of gratitude is that something has already happened. It is the absolute perfect state of receiving. It is the absolute state of receivership. Here's an example. A person gets a diagnosis. The diagnosis is something like cancer. The first moment they hear that word, they feel fear. They feel a change in their internal state, and they pay attention to what the doctor says. They take a snapshot and they create that memory. They remember the moment the doctor said that. Now they're in fear, they're scared, they're going to think positively, or they're saying, I'm going to beat this thing. Well, if they're feeling fear, they can only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts equal to their emotional state. Fear thoughts will be the only ones that will make it in there. Now, if the person changes fear to gratitude, as an example, and they really start training their heart, we can measure when a person feels gratitude, what happens to their heart. Their heart gets regulated, it starts beating more coherently, it starts increasing energy to the brain, it starts creating an ambient field around the body. This is when your heart starts working for you, that when a person starts feeling gratitude, then the emotional signature in the body is that something's happening to them or something's just happened to them. Now we have available energy to begin to design a destiny with. So then a person who moves into that elegant state of being where they're expanded and they're enriched and they're in love with life, then they can't go back to the old self, because that is their new state of being. So then if you practice that every day, sooner or later, it's going to begin to become familiar to you. So then if you're creating wealth and you're in the state of being of abundant, you better not be thinking lacking thoughts, because an abundant person would never do that. You can't demonstrate that you're not making choices because you believe that there's not enough, lack of time, lack of energy, lack of money. A wealthy person would never think that you can't feel unworthy and lacking if you're going to be a wealthy person. So by very logic and reason, you've got to lay that down and move into this state of being. Now, once you're in that state of being, can't sit on the couch and wait for the phone call. Once you're in that state of being, you've got to start making choices into the unknown from that state of being. You've got to trust in the unknown. The moment you don't make the choice, you just doubted your creation. You return back to the known. And so people then, when you're in that state of being, The miraculous happens when you say, okay, I'm going to go for it, but you're not going to go for it from as your limited emotional self. You're going to go for it as your unlimited self. And you begin to make those choices and you step out into the unknown. That's when the miraculous happens. And you say, oh my God, I'm so glad I made that choice. But then waking up in the morning, then impriming your brain and body to make that change is the key. There's 2 times the door to the subconscious mind opens up. When we wake up in the morning and we go to bed at night. Why? In that crossover place. Because your brain goes from deep delta brain waves to theta brain waves to alpha brain waves to beta brain waves. Why? And when you go to bed at night, it goes from beta to alpha to theta to delta. And if you can't get there, you're stuck in high beta, it's because you're driving the sports car in first gear. So people do whatever they can to get down there. So the brain chemistry works in accordance with this. When you wake up in the morning and the receptors in the back of your eye pick up light, the moment that happens, your optic nerve sends a signal to the pineal gland, and the pineal gland starts making serotonin. And serotonin is the daytime neurotransmitter. In other words, serotonin gets you up and going, it gets your brain turned on. The moment it starts getting dark at night, and your eye is no longer picking up visible light, the mechanism starts to change. And now, because there's less light, the optic nerve sends a signal to the pineal gland. The pineal gland takes serotonin and starts carving off a couple methyl groups and turns it into melatonin. And melatonin is the nighttime neurotransmitter. So Sarah gets you up in the morning and Mel puts you to bed at night. Now, when serotonin increases, your brainwave patterns go into beta. That's because you're going to pay attention more to the outer world. When you're in meditation and you close your eyes and you eliminate light and it's dark in the room and you play music in the background, you put earplugs in, you're getting less sensory data coming in from your environment. So the neocortex is not so preoccupied with trying to create meaning between the outer world and the inner world. You're forgetting about the outer world, and the inner world is where you're cultivating something. And when you close your eyes and do your meditation, then your brain waves move into melatonin. But if you're waking up in the morning and you're waking up at 5 in the morning, guess what? Your brain waves will probably be in theta or alpha. You're in your subconscious. You're past the beta thinking. If you go to bed at night, I have friends that are artists and playwrights and musicians. They stay up till 2 in the morning. They love that 11 o'clock till 2 in the morning. They're in nighttime. They're in alpha. They got all these creative ideas. Me, I'm a morning person. I wake up, I'm up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. It's my time to create. I set aside a certain amount of time. That's my time because the rest of the day I'm serving. So I like to get myself right in the morning. So doing that then begins to alter brainwave patterns. Now, if you move from beta to alpha, there'll come an amazing moment. If you do this right, you'll slip into theta. Now, theta is when your body is asleep, but your mind is awake. So think about this. If your body's asleep and you've conditioned it to be the mind through addictions or habits, the moment the body's asleep, it's no longer the mind. So there's no longer any resistance, and that's where instantaneous change takes place. If you go too far, you slip into delta, and that's called deep sleep, restorative sleep. And people say to me, well, I really can't meditate. And I say, really, where do you meditate? Oh, in bed. Yeah, well, get out of bed. You're going to go right to delta. So then what we noticed in our research to finish that other thought is that there comes a moment when you're in that coherent level of alpha, and all of a sudden you slip into theta. And all of a sudden, when theta turns on, all of a sudden you start seeing this amazing change take place. And the body becomes so relaxed, and the energy centers, the sympathetic nervous system switches on. Most of our thoughts and feelings come from our past experiences. They come from our memories. In fact, your brain is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of all the things you've learned and experienced to date. It's an artifact. And when you have an experience, when you're in the midst of an experience, all of your 5 senses plug you into the external environment. And as your brain is processing all of this vital sensory data, all of that information rushes back to the brain. And when it reaches the brain, it causes jungles of neurons to organize themselves into networks, to string into patterns, to reflect their interaction with their external environment. The moment those neurons organize into patterns, the brain makes a chemical, and that chemical is called a feeling or an emotion. And so experiences tend to create more long-term memories because it patterns or stamps or embosses networks of neurons into very specific patterns. And then the emotional quotient helps us to remember the event. So we learn something new intellectually. We also cause networks of neurons to form. The Nobel Prize laureate Kandel in the year 2000 found that when people learn just one bit of information, they double the number of connections in their brain from 10,300 connections to 2,600 connections. So if they didn't review that information or repeat it, the connections pruned apart. So we know then that learning semantic information begins to organize circuitry in the brain, and experiences enrich the brain. The end product of experience, of course, is the emotion, and it causes us to feel certain ways. You can remember where you were on 9/11. You can tell me who you were with, what time of day it was, what you were doing, because whatever you were seeing in that moment or hearing in that moment changed how you were feeling. And the moment you felt altered or you felt differently, significantly, your brain perked up and you paid attention to whatever caused that. And that event in and of itself is called a memory. So then most of our thoughts and feelings tend to be within the neural circuitry of the past and the emotions of the past chemically. So if you take a thought, thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. So if you combine a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, a thought and a feeling, and you have a series of good thoughts that are connected to a series of good feelings, that cycle of thinking and feeling creates what's called an attitude. So as you inhale now, you're pulling that energy and contracting these muscles, and you're locking that first center down, and you're squeezing and you're milking this energy out of there. So it goes first center, then you follow your breath into the second center, and as you follow your breath into the second center, now you lock this one down. And the way you lock it down is you pull in your belly button close to your spine, you pull it in. So then inhale, first center, then you pull in the second center, you're still following your breath slowly and steadily, and then you pull it up into your upper abdomen and you're locking down the center here. Now you're squeezing all three of these lower centers, and when you squeeze these muscles, you begin to push that cerebral spinal fluid up. You follow your breath up into your chest, shoulders down. You follow it through your throat, straighten your spine. You follow it all the way up to the top of your head. Now where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So you want that energy to move right to the top of your head. So then as you inhale, you bring that energy all the way up to the top. You keep following your breath. You lock all the way to the top. When you get to the top, now you hold your breath. And when you hold your breath, you contract those intrinsic muscles, and you begin to lift those muscles up, and you begin to compress those muscles, and you begin to push that cerebral spinal fluid up into your brain. So then why do I ask you to inhale and hold your breath? Now this isn't inhaling and turning purple and pushing. If you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. It's a slow, steady breath, and you follow that breath all the way to the top, either to the top of your head, or you put your awareness on where that pineal gland is, between the back of your throat and the back of your head. Now when you inhale, that inhalation is very slow and very steady. It's not a big inhalation and pushing. It's a slow, steady breath, and you're contracting these muscles and coordinating it, and you're following your breath all the way to the top of your head. And when you get to the top of your head, I'm going to ask you to inhale a little bit more, and as you pull up, you're going to lock these muscles down even further, and you're lifting them up. Once you lift them up and you have your attention either on the top of your head or the space that your pineal gland occupies in space, I'm going to ask you to lock those muscles down and pump, squeeze, or push. And I want you to push that fluid up into your brain by squeezing the muscles. Not by holding your breath harder, but by squeezing those muscles. I want you to begin to pump that fluid and begin to compress up against your pineal gland. When you do this breath, you have to demonstrate a will that's greater than any program. You have to find a level of intensity or a level of passion that's greater than the body as the mind or any addiction to any emotion. You have to be inspiration, the movement of energy. Don't be afraid of it. Just surrender into it. For some people, their body will do unusual things. That's information trying to be integrated into it. Don't be afraid of it. Just surrender into it. If your body does weird things, more than likely that's energy moving to your brain. If you have a lapse of consciousness, or you all of a sudden find yourself on the ground, that's energy moving into your brain. It's happened to me numerous times. It's a sign that you're getting close or at least doing it correctly. Now, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So you want that energy to move right to the top of your head. Inspiration, the movement of energy. You have to find a level of intensity or a level of passion that's greater than the body as the mind or any addiction to any emotion. Don't be afraid of it. Just surrender into it. On a Sunday morning while she was in the shower, her husband said goodbye to his 2 children, yelled something to her while she was in the shower, and then went to the tallest building in Amsterdam and jumped off the building and committed suicide. Now that is a stressful event. And when she got the news, she experienced all the emotions that people experience from something that's shocking and traumatic like that. She was suffering, she was in pain, she was resentful, she was guilty, she was confused, she was angry. She went through the whole gamut of emotions, and all of those emotions, by the way, are derived from the hormones of stress. So she has an event in her life. It changes her biologically. She doesn't know how to control her emotional reaction. It turns into a mood, one long emotional reaction. If you keep reviewing that event in your mind, you begin to produce the same chemistry in your brain and body as if the event was occurring.